Hi everybody and welcome to my studio. My name is Lonna and I am an acrylic artist. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope that you're going to enjoy what we're going to be painting, and if you do, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you're notified when I post a video, and please like, comment, and share on all my videos. I appreciate you all. So let's check out what we are going to be painting in this video. We're going to be painting this design. I've called it Peaceful Waters. We're going to paint all these gorgeous rocks down here that are just layered on each other, and then this beautiful soft water that's coming in onto these rocks. I love this painting so much. It really makes me feel peaceful when I look at it, and that was my intent when I painted it. I will be painting this with Deco Art Americana acrylic paints. You can use whatever paints that you would like to use, and use your favorite brushes. So let's grab our supplies and let's get painting. Alright, so we are going to get ready to start working on this beautiful design right here. And I've titled this one Peaceful Waters because I needed it on a day when I just needed to let peaceful waters flow over me. And so that's when I created this one. So I have done this one on an 11 by 14 inch canvas, and I'm going to be using my Deco Art Americana acrylic paints. And we're going to get ready to start. I'm painting it today on a 9 by 12 canvas. So you can paint it on whatever you have on hand, whatever you like. So I've already drawn some like pebble stuff on here. Whether it's on here now or after we apply an undercoat, doesn't matter. But I've got it on here, and I may or may not be able to see my stones after I get my undercoat on. If not, I'll just draw them back on, not a big deal. But I'm going to be putting my undercoat on with Morning Mist. Now this is a gray color with a little tint of purple, but you could use something like a driftwood or a cobblestone, something that is a pretty neutral color. Oyster beige would also work. So you've got some options in whatever you have in your paint stash to use a neutral color. I wouldn't use gray sky, but if that's all you have, then use that. You can add just a little bit of white to it to lighten it up. We don't want anything really dark underneath our water, and these give nice neutral color underneath our water. So I'm going to take a damp artist sponge and just quickly base coat in the undercoat here. And this is the same color that I used on the other one. Let me grab some water because this paint is sucking up into that sponge pretty good. So I'm just going to apply a just one coat on here is all we need. This is just an undercoating to cover up all that white. We don't want any white coming through as we're painting. And see, I covered up my stones, but as it dries, I think I'll be able to see several of my stones back through that. Do your edges. And if you're doing a canvas, this would be gorgeous on a much larger canvas. But then after you get your base coat on, which with an artist sponge takes absolutely no time at all, and I do sell these sponges on my website, but you can use any type of sponge that you have. So now we're just going to let that dry, and we're going to be ready to paint right on top of it. This is where you can come in and add some stones. Now I don't want you to get too preoccupied about the shapes of the stones. You know, they're just all different shapes. This is actually the line drawing from my painting. So, you know, it's a good size line drawing, a 2-page line drawing. So you can, let's see, that's the bottom page and here's the top. So you can use this for your stones, or you can just draw them in. They're just odd shapes, you know, just some of them are pretty close to round, Some of them are more oval. We've got small. We do want to have some small ones in there in a few places. And a lot of these stones right through here that we paint are going to get covered up with a thin layer of water. We'll still be able to see the stones, but you won't see them as prominent as these down here that have no water on them. So we want to just have all different shapes of stones and keep them not ginormous for the size of painting that you're doing. So let me get this dry, and we are going to get ready to add our lines on here and start painting this beautiful painting. Okay, my undercoat is dry. I did have to draw my rocks back on. I probably drew a lot more rocks on here than I originally had, so I can reshape rocks as I go, take rocks out, put more rocks in, which I probably will come in and put some that look more on top after I get these painted. But I wanted to show you on my palette what colors that I have out, because I am just going to use a variety of these colors. I may mix white with some, I may mix soft black or burnt umber with some to get just a variety of colors out of this palette right here. So I have cobblestone and driftwood. They're very close together. This one's more gray, this one's more brown. Turquoise, soft black, cadmium orange, burnt orange, white, burnt umber, burnt sienna, antique gold, and vintage pink. However you use these colors is going to be just fine. I do not remember the exact colors that I used on my original one. I mean, I don't know, I don't remember, because when I was painting this, the day that I was painting it, I just needed to create something to calm, I'd had a stressful week and I just needed some colors that I felt would calm me. So I know that I used these colors or similar colors in this, so my stones may not turn out looking exactly like they do in here, but I think they're still going to look great. So you just want to pick the color that you want to start with. I'm going to grab a couple of angle brushes to use and paint my stones in here. So I'm going to start by painting in a few turquoise ones, because that was my main color that I wanted. It was the color that I knew would be my favorite color within this design. And we're just going to put one coat on because we have to come in and paint our background areas back in here where like the sand and the dirt and the little tiny pieces of stone set behind everything. So I'm just going to randomly go around and paint some turquoise stones on here and not think too much about it. I'm just going to do a few of each color that I have out here, and then I can go back in and fill in more stones where I feel like I need more of another color. And if you're doing a canvas that has edges and it's not going to be framed, be sure you go over the edge with your stone and finish that stone out. Okay. I think I'll do one on the edge over here because I have a few on the edge of this canvas over here, and maybe one more right here. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to another color. I'm going to move into my cobblestone colors and see how this is going to look. I may have to add some, let's just grab a little bit of burnt umber and mix in with that. Give it a little bit more of a typical stone look. So I'm going to do a few with this color. This is my driftwood, and I'm grabbing a little bit of burnt umber and not really blending it in the paint, just letting it kind of, you know, kind of mix as I paint, but not mix. I don't know if that's helpful or not. So I think I'm just going to do right now just 3 of this color. Actually, yeah, I think I'll just do 3. I'm going to come back and do more here in a minute. I'm going to go into my driftwood. Not so much. I think I'll add a little bit of soft black into that one. You can add any color you want into these rocks. I could go in and grab a little bit of orange and add into this and just create a whole new color for a stone. I don't think I did just straight driftwood on anything or straight cobblestone. I'm pretty sure I mixed it, so I'm going to take some raw sienna or burnt sienna this time and put that in with that driftwood color. And we'll just move around the canvas, just painting stones. That's all we're going to be doing. Just one coat, because we're going to come back after, you know, we add more detail. Oops. Okay, I'm going to go into some of my raw, I keep calling it raw sienna, it's burnt sienna. Mix a little bit of white in with that. And we'll do some with this color. That was raw sienna. No, burnt sienna. I'm going to be calling it raw sienna through this whole video, I'm sure. Raw sienna and white mixed together. This is just our undercoating for our stones. We don't have to be too particular here. Just put some color in and we'll come back in. I think that was an extra stone there, so. I think this stone goes over the edge, so I want to make sure I go over the edge with it. I'm not really worried right now about covering up pencil lines. You know, that will all happen as we build more layers on here. I'm going to do a little bit more burnt sienna, less white in here. And I think I'll do one here. Again, not too particular about my shapes. Everything will get, you know, more defined as we go here. I'm going to take some of my vintage pink and mix a little bit of white with it. It's going to make a lighter pink here. And I think I'll add a little bit more of the vintage pink in there. I might have painted these terra coral. Let me put some terra coral out because they do look like they might be a bit darker. So terra coral, I'm going to put that out. I'm going to use that instead of the vintage pink because it's a much darker color. Yeah, that's the one. So we're going to go with the, let me take the vintage pink and set it over here because I don't know if I'm going to use that one yet. I may use it as a lightning color on some of these. So this is terra coral and I am not adding any color to this. You know, like white or anything like that. Just going straight with the paint here. This one comes over the side, so I want to make sure I paint over the edge. I'll put one over here. And this is just randomly painting in your stones. So right now we're just getting some base colors on here. Okay, I've got some antique gold out here. I think with it I may add a little bit of white. I don't really remember where I used the antique gold at, but I know that I had some out here. So just pick some stones These stones will not stay these bright colors that they are right now, so don't worry about that. And after you've gone through your colors on your palette, you can go back in and add more of some of the colors that you like the best. I'm going to go to my burnt orange now. And I think with this one, I'm going to add a little bit of white. See if this will be a little bit of a different color here. I want to make sure it's not, you know, like the terra coral color, or, you know, that's the raw sienna color. So I know right now all these colors look bright, but they will be toned down, not to worry. So you're probably going to lean more towards one color that you like more than another color, and that's probably the one that you're going to end up putting more of the color in. And that's okay. Your stone, and you can just have your stones be, you know, a couple of colors. You don't have to have a huge variety of colors, but this was making me feel like it was one of those places that had all those different colors of stones that are just beautiful and go everywhere. Okay, I'm going to go over the edge, put a couple on here. And this one kind of comes around here. Let me put some down here. So this will take the longest time to do, probably, is putting this first coat on your stones. So there's only one other color, actually two other colors. My soft black, which I didn't blend in with anything, so I've got my cadmium orange here, which might be awfully close to this color. So I'm going to mix a little soft black in with it, just to see what kind of, and it brings it pretty close to a raw sienna color, so we can omit probably the cad orange for a base color for a stone. I'm going to go into some of my more neutral colors here. Take my cobblestone and add some white to it to get some lighter rocks. And I think I'll just go off camera and finish painting these in, because it's just going to be the same on all of these. Let me do one more with this color. And then I think I'm going to do the driftwood and white. And see how this color looks. It looks very similar to the cobblestone in white. So maybe I'll add a little bit of soft black in with this one. Get a darker value brown stone. Yes, that looks much better. I like that. So a little bit of soft black in with the driftwood. I think I used burnt umber to begin with, so I like the soft black in there. It really makes a nice color here. Alright, so I'm going to I think just go off camera and finish painting in the rest of my stones. So it doesn't take up so much camera time because it's all just the same repetitive stuff, painting in your stones. We're just going to do one coat. When we get all of them painted in with one coat, then we're going to come back and start working in some empty spaces in between our stones and then we'll work on second coats here. Alright, all of my base colors are dry, or this is my under coating of my stones, because they are not going to stay these colors. This is just getting us a foundation. So now we want to take some soft black. You could probably also have some burnt umber out as well, if you want some lighter brown tones. But we're going to go in between all of our stones or rocks with this color. This is the dark shadow areas in and around all of our rocks. So just go around any place that you see a little gap, or you can create a gap if you feel like it needs one. And again, this will all push to the background when we are done, and there'll be a couple of steps to this darkening here. And I feel like I want to put another stone in there. I don't want great big huge gaps in around my stones. So I'm just using a round brush, so you just use whatever brush is convenient or that you want to use to fill in. And I'll be putting some stones on top after we get our next couple layers on our stones. See, even to me, that's a big area right there. I don't want those great big areas. I want these rocks to feel like they're really piled in here. So just go around all of your stones and create this dark shadowy area. We'll be adding some little pieces of maybe some sand or something within these areas. And don't forget the sides, wherever you have some little areas on the sides. We want to make sure we get all of it. So I'm going to go around this whole canvas and just fill in all these areas with this soft black or burnt umber. Whatever you use is going to be just fine. And so it's all going to start looking like this. So I'm going to go off camera and do that. I think while I'm off camera, I'm just going to draw in another stone here and paint it in. And if I see any place else that's like a really big gap, I may add the corner of a stone or something in there. I don't want great big huge gaps in, and I need a stone here I can see. So I'm just going to take some of the colors that I used throughout here and add a stone here and a stone here, and then finish out my soft black around my stones here. And when we paint in our top layers on our stones, we will really define the shapes of them, so that will clean up all of these areas of darkness that we're putting in around these stones. Alright, I got my background kind of undercoating in there. We're not going to worry too much about it right now. We're going to work on our second layer on our stones. Now this is where you can be a little bit more creative with your stone colors. I can see that I've got a lot more orange ones in here and not enough like tan ones that I would like to have in here. Maybe another larger turquoise one. So I am going to probably top coat these with different colors. But now that you've got your undercoating on, you can see where you want to go with your colors. If your colors are just like you like them, then just paint them again with the same color. I'm going to mix mine up and just make some different colors on top of mine. So we're going to go in and put a second layer on all of our stones, and really shape the stones like you want it to be shaped with the second layer, because this is where your stone needs to be just like you want it. So I wanted this one to be a lighter stone, and I think I'm going to make a lighter one, I think over here. And then once we get all of our second coats on here, as you're applying your second coat, you can decide, I think I want this stone to be up over this stone a little bit. So I'm going to put it up over that one. So this is where you can start bringing more stones to the top and pushing more stones to the back. It's a very easy process just by painting over or underneath another stone. So I want you to go all the way through and apply a second coat to these. I think I want this one to remain a light one. And I'm going to keep it underneath that little blue one there. Okay, make sure you do any stones that you want on the side. This one here is a light one, so I'm going to go ahead and put the second coat on it. This one is just, for me, it's just a mix of white and driftwood or cobblestone. Either one of those will work for a lighter color. So just work through your whole canvas, creating the top color and shape of all of your stones. This is where you get to be the most decisive on how your stones will look. Okay, I like this one being more of a brown color, which I think is the cobblestone, so I'm going to keep it that color and put a second coat on it and really shape that stone well. Any places where I have some gaps, I will definitely clean those up. Okay, and I think I want, actually I think this one was that color as well, so here I go. I'm going to shape this stone, and I think I'm going to bring this one over on top of that one, so I'll make it a little bit bigger there. And I could also bring it over on top of this yellow one that I made, so I can, this one will be more on top. And this is just straight cobblestone here. I didn't add any color to this one. Okay, and then check your edge stones to see if there's any over here that are this color, and I don't see any. So I'm going to move on to my next color. And I really think that I want to bring a little bit more of the lighter rocks to the top. So I'm going to go back into my driftwood. Now again, you don't have to use driftwood and cobblestone. You can use one or the other. I'm going to take it and mix some white and some burnt umber and make a little bit more of a brown color and paint some of these other lighter stones in. Again, I want this one to be over this one and maybe over that one. So this is where I'm going to define which rock is on top. And that's a really big rock there. I may come back when I'm done painting and add another rock on top here. I want more burnt umber in my mix here. And I think I'll paint this one in. Oh, a lot of paint in my brush. And this one's going to be under all these other rocks. And this one here. I'm going to keep it like it is. And I think I'll paint this one in. I might add just a touch of burnt sienna here, or a lot of burnt sienna. Take a little bit of that off, blend it, grab a little bit more of my other color, and I think I'll make this one come up on top of this gold one here. It's on top of that blue one for sure. I've got an area in there I need to paint with my background color. let me do that real quick. Get that taken care of. Okay. All right, let's work some other rocks in here. I'm going to go and do all of my turquoise ones, I think, because the turquoise and the orange are the colors that I really want to pop. So I'm going to paint my turquoise ones in. And shape them how you want them to be shaped nicely. And this one is underneath that one, but it's on top of that one. My turquoise ones and my orange ones, those are the ones I really want to pop on this, in these rocks. You really want to clean up those edges where it goes into the background, so make sure you're making some nice smooth transitions there. This one's going to be on top of both of these, I think. And on top of this orange one. So we'll be bringing this stone quite a bit more forward. Although we won't see a lot of this stone, these stones within through here, because the water will cover a lot of that up. Okay, looking good. Okay, I've got one over here I missed. And then this one down here. I think I'm going to put it on top. I had it originally underneath, but I think I'm going to move that to on top. And then come around the edge and clean up this one. And I have one over here. One more, see if I got enough paint on my brush to finish this one out. Okay, so I've got a second coat on my turquoise ones. So now I want to do my more orange rocks or rust colored rocks. So there's two colors that I want to work in here, and one is the burnt sienna, I think. So I'm going to take it with a little bit of white and define a little bit more of my orange. Add just a little bit more white in there. Your stones don't have to be all solid one color. I mean, we're going to be adding more colors on top of here. They can be tone on tone, you know, have some darker areas in them and some lighter areas. We'll be shading around them. So the majority of the work in this painting is actually going to be on our stones. So this is raw sienna, a little bit of white. A little bit more white in there. Just have some fun with it. I don't want you to think too much about the color mixes and stuff. I just want you to grab some paint. Ooh, that's a lot of paint. And put some stones in. Maybe a little bit more of the burnt sienna there. Okay, a couple more here. And then I want to go into some of my more red ones. So let's see. Let me put some cad red out. I forgot to put it out. I've got my Georgia clay and my cad red out. And I think I'm going to go with my cad red here. I'm just going to wipe my brush off. I'm not going to worry about paint mixing. Cad red is really a fun color. It's kind of orangey colored, you know, got an orange tone to it, which I really love about it. Okay, it's going to be under. And some of these I may have painted in pink that I'm going to now switch out to more of a cad red color. A bit more cad red here. I think I'm going to change this one to a cad red. Grab some Georgia clay if you want an occasional darker rock. But really don't think too much about your colors. Just like we did on our top coat, I don't want you really, you know, worrying about what color you're picking up. Okay, check my stones. I go over my edge, clean them up. It's the orange and the blue on here that really make this painting pop so much. Okay, I'm going to go into another color now. I'm going to wash that paint out of my brush. I want to take some, I'm not sure I'm liking the yellow stones, so I think I'm going to take them more to a white stone with a little bit of, tiny bit of soft black in there. See if I'm going to like this. I think it's looking a lot like those stone colors. So I'll just do some burnt umber ones. I have a little bit of that white still in my brush here. So burnt umber with just a little bit of white will make some stones here. Not very much white, so trying to see where I'm going here. I think some of these I've already painted in, but I think I might change some colors on here. Nice smooth edges. That one's kind of a gray color, and I'm kind of liking that, so I think I'm going to leave that one and that one gray, so I think I'll just move to that color. It's soft black with white. Makes a nice gray stone. And here you go. Decide where it's laying in your bed of rocks here. I think I'll put it a little bit over that one, but it's still going to be underneath the blue one. It's going to go over those. And just clean everything up. So I've just got a few more colors to work in here. I think I will go off camera and finish them because this is just repetitive stuff. Just find the ones that you want. I think this one was a different color here. I painted it a while ago, but I think I'm going to make it the gray one. So I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with my yellow ones, because I'm not sure I want them to stay yellow, because in my original I don't really see yellow in there. So I got yellow and my kind of muted raw sienna color. So I think I'm going to paint those in, and then some of my pink ones. So I may be changing up more colors in here, but I'm still going to use just colors within the palette that we originally started with, all of these base colors on our stones, and just mix them and change them and create some nice stones in here. So I'm going to go off camera and just finish mine because it's all repetitive stuff and nothing is going to be surprising here except for my yellow ones. I'm going to change out and make those a little bit probably lighter color. I want some more light stones in here, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how my stones are completed. Alright, I've got all my stones painted in here. I did bring in another color, Oyster Beige. This is what I used on my original one to make some more kind of not so bright white stones. So now I'm just going in and cleaning up around in these shadow areas. Make sure I don't see any of the canvas, although if we see a little bit, not a big deal, because we're going to come in and add some what looks like sand in here. I just want to clean up a little bit, make sure everything is shaped nicely. And if I've missed filling in any place, I can do it now. And you can start creating some little bit of separation in some of the stones, not all of them, because we need shadow areas. And any place where I got my stone over, as I was painting it into the background a little bit, I want to clean that up. Or if I like lost the shape of a stone. Just making sure it's all filled in and cleaning up any shape that we don't like. Okay, a couple more here. And then make sure your sides are cleaned up as well. Just with some soft black. You can add a little bit of burnt umber if you want. The soft black seems too harsh for you. Okay, everything's looking pretty good here. So, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but your stones can be varying colors. They do not have to be all one solid color. So I think it makes them look a little bit more real if they are not all one color, although I did paint most of mine in with one color. I did try to mix it just a little bit. Okay, I think we're pretty good here. So that's got our second coat on our rocks, except for that one. I didn't get a second coat on that one. So let me put a second coat on it quickly. I think it was a burnt umber and white, and maybe some soft black thrown in there. Okay, even if I missed any getting a second coat on it, it won't matter. So we've got our second coat on. Now I want to look at it and see if I want more prominent rocks on top. Like this one is more on top, more on top. This one's more on top, so is this one. So I'm going to really look at it and see where I want to add my rocks that stay on the top. Let me grab a white pencil somewhere. There we go. Okay, I'm going to try and stay off of that area because it's still really wet right there. I know that I want a rock right here on top, so I'm going to draw that one right there. And I feel like I need one, a nice big one right here. Don't worry about that, we're covering up other rocks. We need these rocks on top, so maybe I'll put a couple of rocks on top here. I want one on top here, and make them any shape that you want, but we have to have some rocks that are on top, and you can do as many or as few as you want, any shape that you want to make them. I'm going to put 2 there. I didn't do quite this many on my other one, but I felt like I could have done a few more on top. I want a really big rock here, and maybe a small one here. I think that's a good number of rocks on top. So with these rocks, I want them more pronounced. I made them a little bit more neutrals and blues. So I'm going to take my oyster beige and paint in a couple of these on top. So I want to use my more neutral colors here. You can use the driftwood or the cobblestone, which I might use a little bit on this one. I'm just mixing paint in my brush, just grabbing a color here and there and putting it on. I want some, big rocks on top here, some bold rocks. So this is just a mixture of cobblestone or driftwood, maybe the oyster beige, maybe I'll grab a little bit of white and really make this look different. These stones you may only need 1 coat depending on what color you're painting over, because again we still have stuff to add to these. I'm going to go with just a white one here. Okay, and let's see, I might do just a white one over here. Alright, so now I want to add some of my blue in here, which is my turquoise, and for the top ones I'm going to add some Laguna out. And we'll add a blend of these colors. Laguna is more green. So I'm going to put this one here. I'm going to use mostly Laguna on this one so it stands above that turquoise one that's underneath it. Here. And then I want to add a couple of I'll go with some orange ones here. Some cad red with my burnt orange. Might have to add some white in there and make this opaque because that is not covering up those undercoat areas. This one I may have to add second coat on here. We'll see. Still have some details to add on top. So now I've established my top rocks here. So we will let those dry. And then we're going to come back and add some detail onto these rocks, some spots and irregular stuff on them. We got some shading and highlighting to do, and then we can work on our water. I think these rocks are coming along beautifully. So just look at yours and see if anything else needs to be added on top, as your paint dries, and then we'll come back and start adding some spots and stuff. Okay, mine are pretty dry, I think. So we're going to lay in some like little sand stuff in between in our background areas. So you can use the oyster beige, the driftwood, maybe some burnt umber, but we just want to tap a little bit of stuff. You know, we're just seeing a little bit of the granules. It could be little pieces of broken off rocks, but we can see some of this kind of poking through, or, you know, getting some light. And don't make them great big. In the bigger areas you can probably go great big, but not great big, but a little bit bigger, but we still want these to stay where they're going to be pushed into the background. So, and you know, if you don't fill every place, that's okay. We just want to get that illusion that there is some broken pieces of stone or maybe some sand back underneath there. If it gets too awful bright and you're not liking it, you can wash over it with some burnt umber, and that will tone them down quite a bit. Burnt umber is a pretty transparent color, so it won't really take over. As we're doing this, building our shadows and highlights in here, a lot of this will fade into the background anyway and be underneath the water, some of it. Just little dots, little bitty dots. Try not to think about it or stress out about it. It's just, and you can use oyster beige or driftwood, whatever, you know, cobblestone, whatever color you have on your palette. Don't, it just needs to be a lighter color. Every little bit of this dimension adds a little bit more realism and character to the painting. So don't miss your edges. If you're doing a wrapped canvas, put a few little here and there. Whatever color you want to grab and pick up. Okay. So I think we're pretty good here. And like I said, if you feel like that's too bright, you can wash over it. I'm going to leave mine. I'm not going to wash over mine right now because I think, you know, as we develop stuff, it will all work out. I think I am going to see if some burnt umber spots will put in there just so I can have a varying color. If you painted yours in with burnt umber, this color probably won't show up. So I just want to add some more color in here so it's not just one color. And I don't have to do all of them. Just, you know, hit and miss around your project. And as we start adding some shading in here, it's going to all look great. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So all of that will push back into the background. So right now we're going to start adding some character onto the rocks. So I did some like dot stuff and just kind of wiggled my brush and did a few lines, you know, maybe made a little dark spot on there, put some paint and rubbed it in with my finger. So this is where we want to add some character to our stones. And some of my lighter stones I went in and made a little wash of orange or blue and put on there, you know, just to change them out a little bit. We do not want these rocks to be one-dimensional with their color. We need a variety of colors and characters and traits within these rocks. So this is where you really want to have more fun, just dotting and playing around. No control. We don't want anything perfect. We just want to have some fun with these rocks. So I'm going to grab my little round brush, and I'm going to also put out, I think I'm going to put out some open water and some black, maybe, because I want to add some darker places on some of my stones, and so I want to mix some colors. I'm going to put out some Rookwood Red because this is a darker color for my orangey pinkish stones. But you want to have your base colors out so that you can mix your darker values with your base color. And this is Royal Navy. I don't think I used this in my original one. I think I just used the Midnight. So I put it out in case I wanted it for my water, a different color in my water, but I'm not sure I'm going to do that. So I've got some darker value of colors for all of my base colors, my blues and my reds for my rusts and all that stuff. So let's just start adding some dots here and there. I'm going to take a little bit of burnt umber and just give you an idea of what I want to do here. So I'm going to start with this one, and I'm just going to, tap something on some of these rocks. This is all just character stuff, and it will all push into the stone as we build our shading and highlighting on here. And might just add a little bit of darker spot right there. Do a couple more with this color. I think I'll actually add a little bit of Rookwood Red to my brush here. And we don't have to be, again, one-dimensional with our colors. But I am using my finger pretty much on all of my stones. So I'm going to do this throughout all of my stones. So with my lighter ones, I might go into my driftwood first. And maybe a little bit of burnt umber. And add that on here. And just have some fun putting some little character places on these stones. Lighter colors, darker colors. We want to start out with the darker colors on most of them. A little bit of water in my brush here so I can make some thinner lines. Might go with a tiny bit of black in this one. This is a dark gray one. And try not to make them all the same. Be varying in your, what you do with them. We'll come back and add some put some more soft black out. We'll come back and add some more in here. So I'm going to go across my stones here and just picking up, I've put out all of my colors, my dark and light colors that I have in my palette, and I'm just going to use whatever color or color mix that works good on any stone, making some, just character marks and things like that on the stones. So and just have a little bit of fun with it. This is not anything technical. You do not have to try and make something specific, and just doing a few little dots and things on here. Do some soft black down here. So just pick up your colors as you want, and I really like to, I mean, you can put more than one color on a stone. Be super laid back about this. Maybe just a little bit of that darker blue in here. And you're just going to do all of your stones. Some can have quite a bit, some can just have a couple of things, or some, you know, little swooshes of color. I like taking my finger and touching it and patting it, because then that kind of moves the color a little bit. Doesn't keep it confined to one spot. And so I'm going to go off camera and finish this, because it's all going to be the same just throughout the whole design here. I'm just grabbing color, letting it mix on my brush. You know, I'm not washing my brush. I'm just going to wipe out. You know, color can transfer from rock to rock. They don't have to be, you know, specific. You know, just have a little bit of fun and create some really unusual looking rocks. This is all just, you know, it's background stuff for the rocks. So just continue throughout your rocks here and do them all. And I will go do mine off camera and come back, and we will move on to the next step. Okay, so I think I've got a little bit of character started on pretty much all my stones. I don't think I missed any. So you see, it was just a dabbing and tapping and, you know, not anything fancy. Now some of these I want to put some other color on. So I'm going to take some of my other colors and just kind of wash some of this color on. I'm going to start with one of my blues and just pick one that you like and kind of wash it here and there. I would stay with the lighter colors, not the darker ones. Some of this is going to have water going over it, so the color will blend in anyway. And then I'm going to take a few more other colors and put that on some of the rocks. Help give it, I think it gives the rocks a little bit more dimension. Again, we're going to be shading and highlighting on these rocks and around the rocks, so I think I'll put some of my Rookwood Red, which is one of my colors, on a couple of my stones and start giving it a little bit more of some character. Just a little wash of color, just pat it on there wherever you feel it would look good. go into some burnt umber. Can mix a little of soft black in it. And then go on a few other. And you don't have to put it on every single stone. A lot of these are going to be underwater, so you don't have to worry about too much detail with those. Okay, I think I'll put a little bit of orangey red over here. Darken that one up. And, you know, just scoot all around your painting and see what you would like. You can always come back and add more on here after we do some shading. Let's add some lighter colors on here. So I'm going to take my white and mix it with my driftwood or cobblestone, whatever you have, and just get a little bit lighter color. And we're going to tap some highlights onto these stones. These lighter ones will just get some white. Start bringing out excuse me, some lighter stuff going on them. And just you can just use that same mix on all of the stones. Just a little bit of highlight. On these lighter color ones, you will have to go more into straight white. Again, tap your finger to blend them so they're not standing directly on top. So I'll go in and do all the ones that will require mostly white. And then add a little bit of the driftwood or the, you know, one of your lighter colors, driftwood or cobblestone, oyster beige, whatever you got, into the mix, into your white, and then do the rest of them. And this will help create some high spots on your rocks. Again, it's just a hit and miss, kind of tap and wiggle. This is just creating the high spots on your rocks. That's all it's doing. And some of them may not get any of this at all, so it's up to you. It's just the same as we did with our first color. Just tap some on there. Get some straight white here. Put it on, give a little tap. And it's as easy as that. Stress-free. And don't forget your ones on the edge if you're doing a wrapped canvas. Just a little bit. bit over here on these. Alright, take a peek, see if you're missing anything. Okay, I think that's going to be pretty good for adding that's just a dimensional highlight. It's not, you know, like the highlight on the stones. Just making sure that we've got pretty much all the stones have a little bit of highlight to them. Okay. So now you can go back in and add more color washes on some of yours, or wait until after you shade and see where you want to carry more color throughout your stones. But I think moving your colors throughout onto each rock so that the rock is just not one solid color really helps the more realistic look of the rocks. So continue to do that as you want. We're going to get ready to do some shading on these to start separating and bringing rocks forward now. Okay, let's start separating some of our stones here. So we're going to use burnt umber and soft black to do this. I'm going to start with soft black and try and push some of the more forward stones up. So I'm just going to side load the corner of an angle brush. I've got water in my brush, not a lot, but my brush is fully loaded with water, excess moisture taken out, and then I'm loading just the corner of my brush with some soft black, getting it a nice soft value right here. That's how it's going to paint for me. And now I'm going to just start shading next to some of these rocks and pushing some to the back and bringing some forward. So that stone is underneath these three right here. Okay, this little edge right here will get a little bit of a highlight. So you're going to go around your whole project using either burnt umber or soft black, depending on, you know, where you're at, what color you want to use. The darker value of shading pushes the stone further beneath. So I just did that one, but I know I'm going to have to repeat that and do it again. So anyway, the darker value will push it more back, and when you want to start bringing something that's pushed back but not as far as some of these, then you might want to use burnt umber. Just play around with your color values. I mean, you could mix a little bit of burnt umber with the soft black and see what you get there. But you're just going to start going around all of your rocks and pushing some to the back, which will bring the others forward. So this one is behind all of these rocks. Okay, so these rocks are on top. These rocks are all on top of this one. So I'm going to stay with soft black for right now. And I think I'm going to put this blue one all on top, so I'm going to make this one behind right here. But then this little one is going to be behind these two. So that creates a different depth perspective there when we come in and add our highlight just on that edge. So this will take a little while to get all of these rocks shaded around. So just work at your own pace and get these rocks all done. It's probably a good idea if you start like up at this corner or down at this corner and work your way across instead of right in the middle where I started. So I am going to do a couple more. I'll go off camera and finish them out. I need a little bit more water in my brush here. If your paint doesn't move, then a little bit more water needs to be blended in. And that one's on top right there. This one is going to be behind this one and this one. So we'll be nice and shaded right there. That little edge right there is going to be on top. So the ones that are on top, you can pick an edge to shade your rock on. So with mine, I think I'm going to, let's see how I did my other ones. Yeah, I just picked an edge and just added a little bit of shading along the edge. Just on there, and I'll have to repeat that to make it darker, obviously, but you just want to go all the way around all of your rocks. And oh, that one's on top, this one's underneath. You make all the decisions what rock is on top by how you painted it. So this will be a really shadowed little rock back here. Okay, so I'm going to go finish the whole thing, shading around each rock and bringing the ones more forward. Repeat the shading if you want a lot more depth, like right in here. I know I'm going to want, make sure it's dry, like right in there. I know I'm going to want that to be a really dark area right in there. So, you know, add a little bit more shading where you want some darker, really dark, deep places in there. You can come in with a little bit of black. I wouldn't use black too much because it's really a strong color. But for like our sandy areas, we're going to want to push that back just a little bit. So if your sandy area is like, seems even, just put a little bit of black in there. Kind of push that back behind or underneath those rocks by just a little bit of black along the edges of the stones, leaving it that soft black in the center. And that's going to push the sandy part really far back in there. So you can do this with all of your stones, you know, where you feel you need it. Could just be a little bit in a key spot, you know, not the whole thing, just a little place. You know, maybe here the sand looks deeper behind the rocks there, but maybe right here it's more even with the rocks. So, you know, just play around with it, have fun. When we come in and add our really bright highlight, we can see where we need to go back in with our dark color and really create some depth in our shadow areas. So I'm going to go get my shading throughout all of my rocks with my soft black. I think I'm going to use soft black throughout the whole thing, but if your stones are a different color than mine, you may want to work with burnt umber. It's a more transparent color and you can get softer layering with that color. And then I'm going to check out all my sandy areas and see if I need some more depth in those. Like this one right here, I can see because it looks like it's on top, and I don't want it to look on top. So I'm going to take a little bit of black, just a little bit, and go around these rocks. Just a little bit. I'm just up on the tiptoe kind of there. And I think I'll take my damp brush and clean out in the center, because I still want that to look like sand. And I'm going to have to come back in and dot a few pebbles. Although this area right here, it's going to be covered up with water. So that, again, I like to put detail throughout the whole thing. I don't know how the water's going to cover up, so I still want all of my rocks to look like they have depth all the way around them so that they look more real. So I hope that is helpful. So I am going to continue with my soft black, shading around all of mine, and I will come back when I'm done, and then I'll show you where I want to add some darker color in there. Okay, I'm just finishing up my little sandy areas here with just a little bit of black in just a couple places. Just creating a little bit more depth behind these stones. So I've got my first layer of shading on here. So you can already see how the stones are more separated, and some are definitely standing more on top, and it's looking much more like a bed of rocks for our water. So right now we want to take some more soft black or lamp black, depending on where you need the color at. So since I have lamp black on my brush from doing that back there, I'm just going to go in here and look and see where I might want a little bit darker color value for a little bit darker of a shadow, and I want to create those really dark areas now. And this is really going to give the rocks a lot more depth. You're going to be able to determine really which one is on top. So all these little like V areas, I'm just tapping a very soft color of black in there. You can blend it out with your finger. Just add a little bit more depth, more shadowy areas, like right through here. I didn't create a shadow for one of these, so let me grab some soft black. And I think we'll put the white one more on top, but we want that a little bit darker there and here. So we just want to create these really dark, shadowy areas, and they're just going to be a few throughout. Take the water edge and clean up, especially like these areas where like 3 stones come together. We know there's going to be some darkness here. So let's create a little bit of that depth on there. And so again, this is just going to be, you know, look at your stones. See where you really want to push another one, a little bit of that stone back, and you're going to use the black to do that. Just a little bit. Let's not get carried away with this black. It will definitely take over. We're just putting this in a few places. Especially little V areas. Those are always going to be the dark places, the darkest shadow places. So, like right here, definitely needs to be darker. Maybe a little bit right there. Bring that stone up a little bit higher. Just let your eye wander throughout your stones and see where you think you need to add. Like right here, I think maybe that stone's lifted a little bit higher right there, just in that one spot. Definitely need some dark right here. Maybe a little bit along there. All these little triangle areas, these are our dark shadow places. So just drop a little bit of black in there. And this is definitely going to push back. Push back into the shadows. Where all of these rocks come together, all these little triangle places, these are important places to get your dark shadowy color. And then wherever you want one rock to maybe be lifted up a little bit more. This is used in smaller areas, so don't be doing your whole shadowy areas on your rocks with this color. Just look for those little triangles that you want to darken. And I'm thinning my paint with some water so that it's not straight paint. I just want a soft value of this black. I don't want it to overtake. If your brush feels dry, get a little bit of water, blend it in with your paint. And don't forget your stones on the side. You need to add a little bit of darkness on them. Go ahead and do that. There's probably going to be some little V places over here. So go all the way around your canvas. I'm going to go back over here to this side, make sure I've got all my V's over here, or where I want a stone to look a little bit more raised. Just some small areas, okay? And then when you're done, if you feel like, you know, some of those darker values need another coat of black, although I think one would probably get it just fine. You can go back in and add a little bit of black in there. Actually, I want that rock to be on top, so those will be mostly shaded there. Okay, then just kind of take a photograph of it or step back and take a look. And see, you know, if there's any place that you have missed or any place that needs a little bit of more depth in it, this is your opportunity to do that. And again, this is just my black. And I'm just letting my eye roam and see where I want to put a little bit more depth into something. That one's on top there, this one's underneath. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good here. So the best way to really check how it looks is to take a photograph of it, and then you can let your, once you take a photograph of it, you're not looking directly at it. You're looking, I don't know how exactly it makes your brain work different, but when you take a photograph of it or go stand in front of a mirror, you can see the areas where you need to add a little bit more depth or a little bit more color value of something. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more color into a couple of my rocks. Of course, you know, when we cover up with water, it's going to have that blue floating over it. So that's got our 2 layers of shading. Well, our second layer was just a little bit of the black, but if you need to come back with the soft black and repeat any of your floats to bring something, you know, more on top, you can definitely do that. Especially your ones that, oh, that was a lot of paint. Especially your ones that are more on top. You definitely want them to look like they're on top. And as you're going around your rocks, this is a good time to really define the shape of them. So probably your ones that are more on top, you'll definitely want to put a second float of soft black around them to make sure that you get that depth around them. We want to make sure they look like they are on top. So a second layer on the more upper stones, probably a very good idea. All the ones that you want to bring the most forward. And I feel like this one needs to be a little bit more forward, although it will probably end up being under the water. I still want it to pop out a little bit. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. So I've got my stones that I want to see a little bit more to the top, more on the top now. You can definitely tell which ones are more raised up. So let's add a highlight, because after we add our highlight on here, it's gonna, well, actually, let's shade some of the edges of the stones. After we do that and add our highlight, it's going to tell us if we need to have some deeper shadows within these stones. We're almost done with them. They're looking pretty good right now, but we need to get that shading and highlight on them. Okay, so I want to shade on my upper stones, the ones that are on top. I'm going to use my soft black, but you can use burnt umber depending on the color of your stone. So I want to create a shadow edge just on these upper ones, and I did it on these two already to kind of show you what we're doing. Just a little bit. We can go with some. I might add a little bit of burnt umber in there, make it a little bit more brown for these lighter colors stones. All the ones that you have sitting more on top, let's just add a shaded edge to it. Just find your shaded edge. I'm putting all of mine down towards the bottom of the canvas. So, and I'm just doing the stones that are on top. A little bit of burnt umber for these lighter ones. Go back and repeat on any of them that you feel like you need a little bit more on there. And then take a look around and see if you've missed any that you want a little bit of shadow on. These are the more forward stones, okay? Okay, one more I see here I want to add a little bit onto. Is this one? And I think I'm going to go in now and add a little bit of highlight on my stones, and then I can see really where I want to add a little bit more shading, especially on the top ones. But see how already they are up, standing on top. I love that. Okay, so we're going to add some highlight on here now, and I'm going to use Snow White pretty much on all of the rocks. You can tint it slightly if you want with your base color or some value of the base color, you know, maybe on some of the ones that are more behind. But for the most part, I'm going to use Snow White. Oyster Beige would be a good option for a little bit muted highlight. So maybe Snow White and Oyster Beige would be the best pick for our highlights. So let's start adding some highlights on here. So I'm going to start with some Snow White. It's gonna fade down in there. It's just a color that fades down in. It doesn't stand on top with the first coat. So I'm just gonna start creating a highlight here. Working it onto the rock. Hopefully I can, well, this is a white rock, so it probably won't even stand out on this one. I made this one more of a white rock, but we're still going to do it. So all of the rocks that you want to have a more upper, closer to you edge, you'll put the white on. And the other ones you can do oyster beige. So I'm going to just go through and do all the ones that I want to have the white on the stones. And that's a little dark, so I'll take my finger and tap it and soften it out. Don't want any really sharp edges when you're doing this, so if it's getting a little bit of a sharp color, be sure and soften that back with your finger just by tapping it. If you've got enough water on your brush, you can just kind of tap that color out. Get it out of my shadow area there. And this really should be a pretty fast process. Make sure you've got some moisture in your brush. You can't move that paint without the moisture. And look what that's doing already. Really bringing rocks forward. So let's just do the whole thing. It's the same as when we did the shadows, only we're using this in the light areas. Shading within, or highlighting within our light areas of our stones. Again, some of these will be under the water, so we won't see them. Pay attention to where your shadows are, because you know, maybe not the whole stone has a little bit of highlight on it. Maybe just a small area of it, like right there might have just a little kiss of light, and right there, and maybe through the center here. So just tap a little bit of highlight where you think maybe the sun is hitting that particular stone. And just have fun. Don't think about it too much, other than I'm putting this highlight on the opposite side. We're going to go all the way around our canvas and find those bright areas. And then we'll come back and brighten the very brightest areas. Right now we're just letting the sun hit our stone a little bit. Let's see. I'm not sure which one's on top here, but I'm going to make the blue one on top. This one down here has a little bit of something. That one's just got a little spot. So you're just going to go all the way around and work it rock by rock. And don't forget the ones on your edges, and just, it's better to start in a corner. I don't know why I always start in the center when I'm doing stuff like this, but I do. But it's a little bit better if you start on a corner and then work your way across. And establish a little bit of highlight on your rocks. Okay. I'm going to stay on my shadow areas here. Got my shadow area, although that's going to be covered up with water, but still, just in case you don't want to bring your water that far down. And it does need to come down over the first couple of rows of rocks. Transparent though, so you know we do need a little bit of highlight on these. So just continue to work all the way across. If you miss a stone, not a big deal. That one can be more in the shadow. Don't stress out about it. Water in my brush. Okay, so I just need to go off camera and finish the ones on the edge of the canvas, because I think I got most all of my stones. And like I said, if you miss one, that can be one that's really pushed back in there. Probably would have been good if I hope you were on camera for the majority of that, because I was kind of all over the place. Okay, I'm thinking I got most of my rocks here. With a little touch of highlight. So they are looking pretty good. We want to repeat the highlight on the rocks that are more forward. So I'm going to quickly go off camera and do the ones on the edge before I forget. And then I'm going to come back and all of the rocks that are on top. So however you placed your more upper rocks, those are the ones we're going to add another highlight to. Alright, I'm going to repeat the highlight on just the more forward rocks. And I'm not going to cover the whole entire area. Just give it a really bright spot. And this will put them more to the top because they will definitely have the brightest highlight. So now if there's an edge of a rock that you want up more, this is where you can go in and add just a little more highlight on an edge of a rock. This will lift that rock a little bit more, bring it more closer to you. And I think that will okay, so we can really see which ones are up towards us a little bit more. And I think we're looking pretty good here. Okay, see, I want to do this edge of this one a little bit more. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good here. More water. I think we've got a nice amount of rocks that are coming more forward for us. Okay, I think that gives us some good balance there with our rocks. To me, they're looking just like a bed of rocks, which is what we want. So you can see the rocks take the longest amount of time to complete because they have so many layers on them. So for now, we're done with our rocks. We'll probably come back and maybe do something to them at the end if we feel it needs it. But right now, I'm loving my rocks. I love the colors of them. I love the balance of them, the shapes of them. So I am ready to move on to the water area and start getting some base coats on for our water so we can start bringing this peaceful waters to life. Alright, so the colors I have on my palette are Midnight Blue, Open Water, Leaf Green, Laguna, and Turquoise Blue. Okay? You can use any of these colors. You can omit whatever color you don't want or don't have. You can add, as long as you've got some blues and, you know, some teals and maybe some that have a little bit of green to them, you're going to be good with your water. There's no set colors that you have to use for your water. I'm going to use a larger brush. I'm going to work on the top and not worry about the edge until after I get the top done. I'm going to start in the back corner back here, and I'm going to start with my dark color. Now we're going to have to do a couple of layers of this, so I don't want you to worry too much about how the first layer is looking. So we're going to start with this dark blue back here. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush off and go into my open water and apply some of that right through here. Gently blend those two colors. Bring that down a little bit. Wipe my brush. Get a little bit of green in here. I want it more through here. Wipe my brush. I'm going to go into that Laguna now. I want to put it on each side of the green here and gently blend that. I'll be coming over our rocks now. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush off and get just a little bit of turquoise and put this at the very edge. can see we went over some of our rocks. I'm going to go back in and gently blend this. If you've got a lot of water in your paint or your brush, it's going to lift. So if in that case, just let it dry and we'll just go back over it with the next coat. So now I'm going to finish out my edges, and I need this to get completely dry before we can add another layer in here. So that's our first coat. Okay, my first layer is dry. So I'm going to go in with my second layer. Same colors. Working them just like I did the first one. I think I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of soft black to get that corner back there really dark. Start creating some little bit darker areas in my blue. Just barely tipped my brush into some soft black, and while it's wet, I'm just going to dab it in there, move it around. I'm going to wipe my brush off and go into my open water now. And blend some of that into that darker blue. Lightly tickle it so they blend. Okay, now I'm going to tip into my dark blue and add some movement in this water with some of that darker blue. We don't want to be a solid line between the two. We got to have some color that is coming out. This is going to create your dark and high places. You know, a little bit more depth into your water. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush off and grab a little bit of that green. I'm going to get a little bit of water on my brush because my paint is starting to get a little bit dry, and put that through there. Go back into my open water and put it on each side of that green and gently blend it. We don't want to see just a line of green. We want it to be blended out. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of green with a little bit of that dark blue and add some dark in here. Just these like almost big X's. And then I'm just going to take the tip of my brush and very gently tickle that out. I don't want them standing on top. You probably couldn't even see what I was doing. I had it up out of the light there. I'm going to go into my turquoise now and get a little bit of that with some water. And very gently blend that up. And so when I was adding these darker colors out here, I'm just taking and doing some little like X's and then very softly blending them out. Grab a little bit of my blue and go over that. And then I can come into my lighter colors and add some of this. Just some big X's. This gives the darker areas underneath the water. And then I just wipe my brush off, take the tip of the brush and just smooth and tickle those out. So we don't have any bold, hard lines here. This is all pushed underneath the water, nothing that is standing on top. Just barely tickle and blend. Okay, so for the water that comes out here and around, I'm going to wash my brush out and get quite a bit of moisture out. I'm going to use some Glazing Medium. Now on my original one I did not use Glazing Medium, but I think for you, you can just use water, but I think Glazing Medium will help control the thinness of the paint. So I'm going to load my brush with some Glazing Medium. Okay, I'm going to tip the corner of my brush into some turquoise and blend that into that corner. So now I want to come out here and start creating some light color of water. We'll bring that darker color down into it later, but for now we're just creating where our water is laying on our rocks, or kind of floating, the thinner area of the water, I guess I should say. So I'm just going to add some of this transparent turquoise blue onto the rocks, pick up Glazing Medium, blend it in into your brush, and then corner into a little bit of turquoise. And we're just going to start creating a thin layer on our rocks. As it comes back here to meet the water, we can start getting a little bit more paint in the brush so that we can start working that paint. And like I said, you can use water to do this. You just have to be careful and let it dry a little bit, because the Glazing Medium gives you time to like work the paint and blend it out, but with water you got to let it dry. Put on a light layer, let it dry, come back and do another layer. I want to add just a tiny bit of green or Laguna into my Glazing Medium mix and put some of that through here. And we're starting to create some transparent water on here. I'm going to have it be a little bit darker through here because I don't want that transition line to be quite so dark there. A little bit more Glazing Medium. And I'm going to use my Laguna and maybe my green. A little bit of turquoise because I want this to blend with that turquoise right there. And I'm just going to lay some in there along that line, and then very gently start patting it out, bringing it out. So I'm starting to build quite a layer of Glazing Medium on here now, and I really need it to start drying so that I can see where I need to come back, especially at this water line. It is really very dark right there. I still have to work that out to get it more transparent, you know, a gradual change of color. And you can bring your water up onto your rocks as far as you want to. So I'm going to stop right there and let it dry. And once it is dry, I'm going to come back in and begin blending, and I'll probably put one more layer in my water to really bring it all together. Right now I still feel like there is distinct lines of color, and I want it all to blend in. So I'm going to bring more pink this way, maybe a little more lighter blue into the dark, a little more dark into the light, and make it work to where it is more blended, not just a line of color. So this needs to dry because glazing medium gets very tacky if you continue to work it, and we don't want that to happen because it will start lifting what little bit of paint that we have on there off. So get it dry, and we're going to come back and add some more layers and work on our water a little bit more to get this finished. It is looking gorgeous. I am loving it so far. Okay, mine is completely dry now, so I want one more coat on my water, and this time I'm really going to make all those colors blend together. So again, I'm going to start with my midnight blue and begin bringing that in. I want to bring some of this color down into all this other by making some long X's. Try and put this where you can see it, and I can also see it because I'm getting a huge glare off of this. So, alright, so I'm going to wipe my brush off and go into my open water and start applying that. I'm going to get a little bit of water on my brush because I want these colors to blend. I want a little bit more of that dark blue. And I'm just going to start blending and making all these colors work together. A little bit of green. I definitely want water in my brush when I apply this green in here. And then I'm going to pick up my Laguna and begin blending that. Take it up into my other colors. Don't forget to do the edge of your canvas. Back into a little bit more green and bring some green up into these other areas. Wipe my brush. Blend, blend, blend. Alright, I'm going to go into my turquoise blue now. And this goes right here, and then I'm going to go back into my Laguna and put it in and blend and walk that so that it softens out. We want a gradual color change here. We don't want, any hard color changes. So I'm just going to pick up some colors randomly. I'm working wet into wet, so you have to do this very quickly. If it starts drying, you're just going to have to let it dry and come back and repeat the process. So there I brought a little bit of that darker blue down below my green, and we're creating some more transparent stuff there. I really like that. That looks really good. So I'm not going to do anything more to my water right at this moment. We got to come back in and add some highlights and stuff. I want to work down here in this area. So this time I'm going to use water, and I have my brush loaded with water. I'm going to side load with some Laguna and blend that into my brush really well. And I'm going to start adding some of this color out here onto my stones. This is that more green blue. And I'm just creating some transparent color out here. Make sure I have water in my brush and really work that paint in there. I don't want to be putting down any harsh colors. So we're getting some nice transparent water coming over our stones here. I'm going to get a little bit of turquoise and blend that with some Laguna for a little color variance. And then I'm just going to put some of this in here. I want to also add a little bit of that green in here because I want some of that green, make the rocks look a little mossy underneath or something. So I've added a little bit of green in there with some water, blend it out. just scoot a little bit of this color onto the rocks as well. So now we have this beautiful transparent stuff that is finding its way onto our rocks, and it's looking really good. I love all of that transparency there. So I am good with this. Maybe a little bit more color in through here. I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to come in and add all of our lighter colors on here. So I've got white on my palette to do that, but I need this to be dry before I come back with the white. So I'm going to quickly dry this, and then we can move on to finishing up this project. Okay, let's finish this up. I'm going to put a little bit of soft black out on my palette here. I want to create just a little bit of more depth in my darker color. So I'm going to load some of the blue, a little bit of soft black. I am using my angle brush and loading one side of it. I first want to create a little bit of darker values under my water. So I'm just going to create a little bit more soft black in there. Take the water edge and smooth them out. I don't want them to be directly on top. We can glaze over this later. I'm going to wipe my brush out and take my next blue color and just blend that in with some of that darker color. And create a little bit darker stuff kind of going on back in there. We're going to work our way forward with these a little bit darker colors. And that's going to give us a little bit of shadowy stuff in there. A little bit more of that dark blue in the mix here. Okay, let's start adding some of our light colors in here. I'm going to take my white, I'm using a larger angle brush now, and I'm going to mix some open water with it. Maybe a little Laguna. I just want a lighter color here. Really work that into my brush. I want it to be transparent. And I'm going to begin laying in some X's, kind of like this. I don't want any hard lines ending on them. We'll wash over this when we're done. And some of these darker ones out here, we'll just add a little bit of this onto them. Just a tiny little bit. I'm going to be washing over this, so we'll clean that up. Grab a little bit more white on the corner of this brush and blend it in. And now I'm going to start creating just some wiggly lines on here. To start creating the edge of our water. This is that mix of white. I've got a little open water, a little Laguna, so whatever colors that you are using. That a little bit more solid of a line there. So I'm just loading the corner of the brush. This is very transparent. It's a very thin amount of paint. And just continue to mix your colors using plenty of water in your brush to get a nice transparent color here. We don't want hard lines, or thick paint, I guess I should say. We don't want thick paint. So we're seeing how we're starting to create a little bit of flow of water. And I'm just blending those three colors. Open water, a little bit of Laguna, and white. We'll come back and probably add a little bit more white on the very edge here. I don't want that to be quite so fat right there. Take that down a little bit. And try to redefine it. Okay, you see how we're starting to create the more transparent water. Bring this out, those big kind of like sweeping X's. I'm not going to worry too much about how bright they are at the moment. Okay, that's looking pretty good. A little bit out in here of the sweeping X's. Alright, we've got the beginnings of laying in our highlights. We're almost done. So I want to wash over my ones out in the water a little bit. I'm going to take that Laguna and a tiny bit of open water. Make sure they're dry, and I'm just going to wash over. Create a wash just by adding some water to your paint and wash over. Take those down. Make sure they're dry when you do this. Water. Add just a lot of green in there. Maybe not quite that much green. Go back a couple of colors here. Just want it tinted green a little bit. like that green to be over my rocks, that washy color of green. Kind of see maybe there's some moss growing on those rocks since they kind of get water over them a lot. Need a little bit of white in my brush. Like the angle of that one there. I want to make sure we're going the same angle and direction up our canvas. So okay, we're going to wash over this area back here with that dark blue and open water. And dark blue and soft black up here in the corner. Just a little wash of it. Okay, our water is looking really good now. So let's just create our brightest little highlight here of some white. Side load a wet brush with white. This will keep the white from being super bright. And we'll just create the bright water, foam edge of our water coming in. Going across these rocks. Plenty of water in your brush so you're not having draggy stuff. More water than paint. You just got a little bit of paint on the corner. And we're getting those little waves that are coming in. And then you can brighten up any of these that you want to have a little bit more foamy stuff on them, maybe. You know, if there is foam stuff in your water, just tap a little bit of white on there. And this will make our brightest little layers of the water coming in. Love how that looks too. I'm just kind of tapping and scooting the brush, turning it and scooting it to give it a little bit of and that is looking pretty good. I like how that's looking. So once you have your white on here like you like it, you can go back with a little bit of, on the rock area, with a little bit of green or some dark blue, and go a little bit underneath the water. I think on my original one I did green. I might do a little bit of mix of green and the midnight blue. Wipe the majority of it off of your brush and just create some, make sure this is pretty thin layer of paint. You can create some darker areas, smooth it out. We don't want this being, you know, really super dark. I might have to come back in a couple of these and add a little bit more white on here. But that gives you a little bit more depth on there. I'm going to add a little bit more white because I feel like a few of these could use it. Just sliding the edge of my brush along, especially on these places where I put a little bit of shadow. And just create a little bit. This is just the way that worked easiest for me, so you can create yours however works easiest for you. And then if you feel like your water is still just a little too transparent, I feel like it's just a touch transparent, I'm going to thin down some turquoise blue. A little bit of Laguna is mixed in there. And then I can just wash some of this color behind my white areas a little bit and create a little bit more of the color coming up on the rocks a little bit. You see how it covers up quite a few of our rocks, but still looks extremely cool. I am loving that. This one particular rock maybe just a tad brighter than what I would like it to be, so let's see if I can tone that down just a touch. Use some burnt umber, some soft black. Making a more dirty rock. Not quite so bright. I do want it to have a little bit of a highlight on it. And then my water right here, I feel like I lost its highlight. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. I am really liking that. So that finishes it. If you want to add some shading around your canvas, you can certainly do that. So let me bring my original one in here if I can get it in the screenshot. Bringing water and paint everywhere. So let's see if I can wide angle out enough to get them both in here. Okay, looks good. Here's my original one, and here's the one I just did for this video. I think they look pretty similar. I really love how the rocks look on both of them. They look so amazing, and what fun. The water was so quick and fast, and I mean, it did take a couple of layers to build it, but once you build your layers and blend everything out, it all just really comes together. And I did use glazing medium on this one, but again, you can just use water if you don't have glazing medium. But you have to be careful with your next layer that it's not super wet. You can lift paint. But they turned out amazing. I love them both. This one is more darker oranges. This one has a little more pinks in it, but they look fabulous. So I hope that you guys enjoyed painting this one with me. I have loved painting it again. It's called Peaceful Waters. You can get a packet for it on my website, lonnalamb.com, which includes the written instructions, step-by-step written instructions, step-by-step color photos, and the line drawing that will fit this size of a canvas. This is a 11 by 14 and this is a 9 by 12. You can reduce it down, use part of it, paint it on an 8 by 10, whatever you would like to do. But a lot of fun with this one. I really enjoyed it. I hope that you guys will give me a thumbs up, like my videos, share them, comment on them. I appreciate you all, and I cannot wait to bring you the next video. Thanks so much for painting with me, everybody. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.